starting off with number 10 is Joliet. So this story was submitted by a girl who wanted to be known as Anna G. Now Anna shared that she has a century-old doll that is haunted by 4 souls. Joliet was passed down to the girls in this particular family, but it does have this awful curse attached to her. The story goes that the doll has the souls of all the boys she's killed in the family trapped inside of her. Because you see, every woman in the family had a son and a daughter, yet every son mysteriously died at 3 days old. Joliet would then get given to the daughter, who would be plagued with hearing the crying and laughing of the dead infants coming from the doll. Which is like very just disturbing. Now Anna claims she knows the names of all 4 souls inside Joliet and that it was apparently a pregnancy gift Anna's great-grandma received from a friend. However, this friend was bitter and jealous and cursed the doll, and so Anna's great-grandma's son was killed in infancy, and it's been happening ever since. So I mean, with this one, girls are safe, boys in their family, if they do survive, should stay away at all costs. What would that friend even be jealous of or bitter about? Maybe they couldn't have kids? So then they were like, you can't have kids either. Coming in at number 9 is the puppet. Back in August of 2015, a bizarre cursed puppet apparently choked its owner and gave him horrible nightmares. Now after getting rid of it and giving it to a paranormal investigator called Jane Harris, Jane recorded the wooden puppet in its glass case every day for 3 months. Now the blessed box has no doors, no holes, so you can't open it or lift it, so the puppet is very much inside the safe zone. The puppet itself seems to be a priest of some kind, wearing glasses and carrying a wooden cross with a rosary draped over it. Now in the recordings you can legitimately see this puppet move its hand on its own accord and tap the glass wall with its cross, and it is the most chilling sight I've ever seen. Like, there's videographic proof of this entity either inside the puppet or attached to it, and that just baffles me. See, I reckon we should just keep it in the box. Maybe douse it in holy water, light it on fire, something like that. But those are just my suggestions. At number 8 we have Daisy. Now back in November of 2018, Beliz, a Peruvian woman, said she owned a doll that was so jealous of her boyfriend that it actually caused him to leave her. The doll named Daisy was given to Beliz as a Christmas gift and could apparently move by itself and knock things over whenever it wanted. The day after she got her, all of Daisy's hair fell out somehow despite being a doll. One day Beliz randomly saw a bright light right after her Bible randomly fell off the TV and she burst into tears. She said she felt like she was surrounded by shadows and could actually see them around her. When she looked up, her face was covered in cuts supposedly inflicted by Daisy. Her boyfriend decided to leave her soon after that because he would feel like he was getting physically beat up every night, and he knew 100% it was because of the doll. Now I would get rid of it too, but Beliz is too scared to do so, so she hasn't yet. Beliz, let that doll go. She's not worth it, my friend. Filling at number 7 slot is Ruby. Honestly, this doll looks like it's been through a lot and seen some probably too much. Now based on what her previous owners said, Ruby's been passed down from generation to generation, but no one liked having the family heirloom. You'd go to sleep with her in one place and wake up to find her in a completely different room. No one moved her, she just got there somehow. And every time someone picked her up, they'd start feeling this immediate wave of nausea and sadness. Apparently a family relative passed away holding Ruby in their arms, and that perhaps the spirit of that relative stayed within Ruby. She's now displayed at the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal and the Occult in case you do want to see her, but I mean, I suggest you don't, since you'll probably come away from that experience feeling quite depressed. Now at number 6 is Elmo. I feel like Elmo toys are so popular, obviously because of how popular Sesame Street is, but I don't think I've ever walked into a Toys R Us without seeing some sort of Elmo toy. Never had one myself though, not part of the bandwagon. Either way, the Bowman family decided to buy a talking Elmo doll back in 2008 for their 2-year-old son James. The doll was programmed to say the child's name and 2 other phrases and nothing else. But after the family changed its batteries, the doll started ad-libbing other words like "kill James," which I don't even know how the doll would be able to say unless it was A, programmed into him, or B, he was possessed. And imagine hearing that in Elmo's sing-songy voice like, nah B, no. And I know technically it didn't leave James injured, but I'm sure it mentally scarred him and his parents, so that's a sort of injury. Coming in at number 5 is Letter. Looks wise, he honestly does look really bloody creepy. He's wearing a silky dark green suit and is about the size of a child. He's meant to be 200 years old and is made from real human hair and carved wood. And I feel like if he's made from real hair, then obviously the person whose hair it was is still attached to the doll somehow. That's just how haunting and attachment works. I should know, I've done enough top 10 videos on hauntings. Either way, Kerry Walton has owned Letter since the 70s after he found him in an abandoned house in Australia. When he brought him home, everything kind of went tits up and no one's really surprised by that, are they? White, take a doll from an abandoned house when you don't want shit to go down. You asked for that, Kerry. Now things would start moving without any force, there were scratch marks all over the floor. Kerry's children would have nightmares constantly. One night his daughter woke up screaming, saying Letta had moved on his own, and he was right by her bed. He then grabbed her finger with a strength she never imagined and would not let go. And I mean, the bruises on her finger did not lie. It did happen. Letta, you naughty bitch. At number 4 is Robert the doll. Now Robert was actually the inspiration for Chucky, aka the most famous evil doll to hit theaters ever. Made by the German toy company Steiff, the life-size doll was gifted to artist Robert Eugene Otto as a birthday present back in 1905. Looks-wise, Robert looks spent as hell. He's made of stuffed fabric and is covered in little holes and is dressed in a sailor outfit that was presumably Eugene's as a kid. In another version of the story, the doll was given to the family by a maid practicing voodoo as revenge for something that they had done. Legend has it that Eugene would blame Robert for all the bad things he'd do as a kid, and so he himself kind of just unleashed all of Robert's bad powers. The doll stayed in the family for years even after Eugene's death, and it said he was the cause of things like car accidents, financial bankruptcy, and broken bones within the family, which I think is slightly reaching, to be honest. You can't blame bankruptcy on a doll. That's a you problem. Filling at number 3 slot is the China doll. Back in 2017, there was a huge bidding war going on eBay over a haunted China doll. Debbie Merrick, the initial owner of the doll, shared on ITV that the doll would set off her fire alarm, take off her own necklace, and would scratch her partner any chance she got. Lee Steer managed to win her with his bid of £866, and the doll was soon shipped to him. However, after 2 days of being in the same house with her, Lee's father woke up with scratches all over his arms, very similar to those found on Debbie's partner. The scratches seemed to be the same size as the doll's hands, despite the fact they hadn't even unboxed her yet. Lee said ever since they brought her into the house, he's been hearing strange noises and things keep breaking despite no one actually being near the object in question. Now at number 2 is the hoax. This one's from Redditor KK Holiday 07, who said their college roommate's sister decided to buy a haunted doll off the internet, and she was fully aware that it could have completely been a hoax, and she herself was a major skeptic when it came to things like this. So when reality set in and it was so much different than she expected, she was shook. As soon as she got the doll, things at her house just went haywire. She started having intense violent nightmares every single night. Her dog started throwing up blood, despite the vet saying he was completely fine. The girl started hearing voices that would tell her to harm herself, and she actually ended up being admitted into a mental institution and is still very much there 8 years later. And finally, at number 1 is the collection. Now usually these stories involve one doll, but this one involves 8. The whole gang linked up for this one. Now the couple who owned the doll said they were super interested in paranormal phenomena and decided to buy them because they were said to be possessed. Cameron, Ashley, Lily, Crystal, Charla, True, Monica, and Isaac have been seen moving around on camera. Their presence in the house also invoked the apparition of a boy at the bottom of their staircase. Who is this boy? No one knows. But did the couple wake up unable to physically open their eyes the next day? Yes. The couple both reported feeling this intense weight on their eyes, almost like their bodies and minds were awake, but they physically had no control over their movement or eyeballs, kind of like they were in a coma. When they finally found the strength to move, they looked over the footage and saw what really happened. The ghostly boy, the doll's moving.
Starting us off at number 10, Baby Secret. Mattel, creator of Hot Wheels, Fisher-Price, and of course, the one and only Barbie, has been spearheading the world of toys for nearly 80 years. But it wasn't until a few years into their success when parents began to worry that one of their toys had stepped over the line. In 1965, Mattel proudly introduced a talking doll named Baby Secret, which to me already sounds like a bad idea. I mean, isn't the whole point that we're trying to teach young minds not to keep secrets, you know, for their safety and such? Well, apparently Mattel didn't quite think that part through. This doll liked to, as the name suggests, keep secrets with whoever she was playing with, and would whisper supremely creepy things like, "I like to sleep with you," and "hold me closer," into the ears of her impressionable owners. Now, the argument here was that the baby was not only encouraging secret keeping, but was also just saying super creepy stuff, neither of which are great aspects in a toy. Coming in at number 9, Mommy to Be. On the subject of Mattel, there have been so many different Barbies over the years, it's hard to keep count. And while some are kick-ass dolls like President Barbie, Dr. Barbie, Computer Engineer Barbie, there have also been a few duds. One of these duds was actually not Barbie herself, but was called Midge and was advertised as being Barbie's best friend. However, the controversial part of it was that Midge was pregnant, and you could creepily detach her plastic bump to reveal a tiny plastic baby inside of her. I mean, just purely based off of imagery, I can understand why parents weren't ultra thrilled about this one. I have to admit, it's a wee bit creepy. The real issue that parents saw was not that she was pregnant per se, but that it seemed like she was promoting teen pregnancy, as originally she did not have a wedding ring on, so it was assumed she was not yet an adult. In fact, the controversy surrounding Midge became so bad that Mattel had to pull her off the shelves and completely revamp her entire backstory. As of 2013, Midge is simply Barbie's best friend. No husband, no kids, nothing. Coming in at number 8, Kid Connection. There are lots of different toys on the market that are advertised to help your little ones sleep soundly in their crib. But there is only one, or at least one that we know of, that was hiding a dark secret. For Christmas one year, the Skeleton family received a little plastic boat as a gift that would attach to the crib and play soothing ocean noises and music. The toy was made by a Walmart brand called Kid Connection, and it seemed like a lovely gift at first. However, while it was playing one day, the mother noticed a hypnotic voice coming from the toy that she claims sounded like it was saying, "I hate you." Now, that is certainly not the thing you expect to hear from a toy like that. The mom decided to take it back to Walmart thinking hers was defective and had some kind of glitch or something, but she soon found out she had not been the only one to complain. Turns out, they all said the very same thing. Walmart naturally pulled all the toys from the store, but never fully addressed the issue publicly. The main conspiracy is that since these toys were made outside the States, it was an attempt to manipulate young American minds into self-hatred to slowly defeat them one by one.
Filling at number 7 slot is Harold. So Harold was listed on eBay back in 2003, wherein the seller said Harold was the reason their cat died. Harold, how dare you? Harold's mere presence in the house caused the cat's death, chronic migraines, the end of the seller and partner's relationship, and it even caused them to hear the disembodied voices of children in their basement. So Harold is quite an active fellow, let's just say. He's since been passed around from owner to owner, the most recent one being Anthony Quinata. Anthony actually exorcised Harold and refuses to mention him ever again, so I guess we should also start mentioning Harold as well, because he killed the cat, and we don't stan, right? No. Now at number 6 is the Voodoo Doll. Back in October of 2004, a woman from Galveston bought a zombie voodoo doll from New Orleans on eBay. Now when it came, it was bound and tied in a metal box, coffin looking thing, and the owner claimed as soon as she opened it, she let an evil into her home. She started having vivid, horrible nightmares, hearing sounds around her house, and would always find the doll in a different place to where she had left it. Then the assault started getting physical. She'd wake up with deep cuts all over her body, and knowing it was a doll, she tried burning it. Didn't work. She tried cutting it with a knife and then scissors, neither of which worked either. She then tried burying it at a cemetery, but it somehow showed up back on her doorstep. Like this doll is coming back from the dead to be like, I'm back at it again. Now the seller she bought it from refused to reply to her emails or anything, so she was just literally stuck with this voodoo doll. She kept the doll locked in her attic for 2 years, hoping that when she moved house, she would just leave it there. And obviously it's been more than a decade since she shared this story, so I really hope she has moved house and kept that doll in the attic. Can you imagine the family that probably lives in this house now has no idea why hauntings and weird stuff is going on, yet little do they know it's the voodoo doll in the attic. Coming in at number 5 is Charlie. Now this doll was discovered inside an attic of a Victorian home in New York back in 1986. Charlie was locked in a trunk that dated back to the 30s, and with him came a piece of paper with the Lord's Prayer on it. Which, I mean, if you're finding a doll with a note of scripture, chances are you need to douse it in holy water. Charlie himself is yellowed from age, one of his eyes has rubbed off, and he low-key looks like he's wearing a straitjacket. just putting that out there. Now, her family ended up getting the doll and placing it on display along with their other dolls. However, mere days after they got him, he started swapping positions and knocking the other toys off the shelf, so clearly he just doesn't play nice. The youngest daughter of the family claimed Charlie spoke to her at night, but the parents dismissed it as a child being paranoid. Well, they dismissed it until she woke up one day with deep slashes all over her body, and then they were like, maybe there's some truth to that. They ended up locking the doll in their attic and then donated it to an oddity shop in Salem, because apparently everything cursed or haunted just ends up in Salem, the home of the witches. I'd love to be from Salem. Wingardium Leviosa. I love to be magic in general, but whatever. At number 4 is Elsa. Back in 2013, Emily Madonia was living life in Texas with her family and kids. Her daughter was gifted an Elsa doll from the movie Frozen, and the doll also had a button that when pressed would make her sing Let It Go. 2 years later, the doll started singing in English and Spanish, despite the family never changing the doll whatsoever. Instead of throwing it away, they never replaced the batteries, hoping it would just die, but it didn't. It kept singing and talking even when it was completely turned off. Someone make that make sense to me. The family ended up throwing it away to find it back at their house weeks later. The doll would cause their daughter's fingers to feel extremely cold to the point of pain on some occasions. Now, upon asking, the parents found out none of the kids brought the doll back, so they started freaking out. They threw it out again, but this time they wrapped it inside a garbage bag, then put it into 2 other garbage bags before putting it in the bin. That's a lot of layers. You can't get out of that one. But apparently, either way, it was collected on garbage day and that was that. But clearly that wasn't that, because after the family got back from vacation, it was in their backyard. Some hoes just never die. Elsa being one of them. Filling at number 3 slot is Annabelle. Yes, she is a real possessed doll. The movie was based on a true story, which is like the most frightening sentence ever. Based on a true story, like please no. And I know we've mentioned her and her story so many times on the channel, but I mean she is one of the most infamous cursed toys out there, so how could I do her dirty like that by not including her? That's not mean. So in 1970, a mum bought her daughter a Raggedy Ann doll from an antique store. The daughter put the doll on her bed and left her there, but soon enough the doll started changing position, and initially they thought it was because the bed was being nudged, but boy were they wrong. Annabelle would change rooms and leave notes around the house saying things like help Lou and help me. They lived in a home with other people, and the doll even strangled one of the housemates' fiancés in bed. The final blow came when the duo came home one night to discover the doll covered in blood. Whose blood is this? They called an expert who told them the spirit of the doll was called Annabelle and that she was a 7-year-old girl that was murdered and left to rot in a field where the apartment they lived in was currently standing. The spirit told the expert medium it just wanted to stay and be loved, and so the housemates let them keep it, not knowing that there was no little girl, it was in fact a demon with behavioral problems. Very different. I mean, I could say some kids are little demons with behavioral problems, I'm not gonna lie. They're annoying. Now at number 2 is Mandy. Now Mandy is an antique doll that looks like a cracked baby. She has a scar or crack running down one side of her face, and she's wearing a bonnet and old-fashioned white nightdress. She was made in Germany at the start of the 1900s, but the owner reported strange things about her. She would hear crying coming from her basement despite nothing being there. When Mandy was donated to Cornell Museum, the staff members' items started going missing and then reappearing in other places or just straight up vanishing for good. She's been known to make electrical things malfunction, once even causing a live spark to burn an employee. Visitors have shared feeling very uneasy and down when they look at her and have claimed her eyes move around the room. But she's also a low-key just cute little attention seeker. She's known to tap on the glass to alert staff, and then someone will take her out and calm her down or put her in their lap, which I think is kind of really cute. Paranormal investigators believe a child spirit lives inside Mandy and that the little girl got trapped in a basement somehow and died down there and somehow attached herself to this doll. And finally, at number 1 is Samson. What an ominous name. I've never liked the name Samson, and I apologize if that's your name. No disrespect, I just don't like it. Now initially, Samson's previous owner had put him for sale on eBay and described him as a tiny terror, which I mean, some also describe me as. Let's be real. His previous owner shared that within 1 hour of getting Samson, a blood vessel in her eye burst. She started feeling breathless, had neck tension, saw patches of skin, and more. Samson even tortured her cat and broke stuff around the house, and I draw the line at torturing the cat. Previous owners have also claimed the doll causes major paranormal activity in the house, like flickering lights and scaring babies. One incident included Samson somehow finding its way into the baby's crib, the mobile above him spinning wildly, the rocking horse having a mind of its own and water dripping from the ceiling onto the baby. Through sessions with a medium, it was found that the entity attached to Samson is apparently that of a little boy who was kidnapped, tortured, and murdered 200 years prior.
Alright, coming in at number 10, we have the Doll of the Devil. This is the name being given to the creepy doll that caused a stir on the internet in 2018. Footage of a vampire doll that follows you with its eyes went viral after the demon doll appeared on an unmarked tombstone in Mexico. You know what? I don't like the sound of this. Oh, but it gets even worse. The doll was found with a baby bottle of blood next to it. I'm not even sure if this is the original video, but footage uploaded to YouTube by RM Videos shares the creepy doll, and it's had over 330,000 views. Look how its eyes really bore into your soul. Who watching this video would touch that doll? Yeah, rather you than me, mate. Coming in at number 9, we have Mandy. Mandy is one of the more notorious haunted dolls. I'm actually pretty creeped out just looking at her, to be honest. It's all about her cracked face, her knitted bonnet, and that creepy little lamb. They're enough for me to basically want nothing to do with her, but as I'm here hosting a top 10 video, I kind of have to give you the story. Sucks to be me. Alright. So, Mandy is said to date back to the 1920s and is thought to have come from Germany. Somehow, she travelled all the way to Canada, and in 1991 she was donated to a museum in British Columbia. Why was she given to a museum? Well, her previous owner thought that she was possessed. She said she would wake up at night to hear a baby crying and that the windows in her home would miraculously open. After she gave away the doll, the crying and the window opening stopped, but strange things started happening in the museum. Workers also heard crying, and weirdly some staff members would find their lunch had disappeared. I'm sorry, but ain't nobody messing with my lunch. In one truly terrifying turn of events, that little toy lamb was found outside of Mandy's case. How'd it get there? Well, paranormal investigators say that Mandy is possessed by the spirit of a child, but she isn't actually a menace, just playful. Nonetheless, I think I would keep my hands off her. Coming in at number 8, we have the Wedding Scratcher. I already don't feel super great about a porcelain doll dressed as a bride. It kind of combines all of my fears of corpse brides, Miss Havisham, and spooky haunted dolls, making it a bit of a trio of doom. Speaking of doom, this bride doll bought it in bounds for a family who bought the doll for £5 in a charity shop in the United Kingdom. 50-year-old Debbie Merrick brought the China doll, but then she got way more than she bargained for. It started bringing chaos and misfortune into her home. She placed the doll on display in the spare room, but since the doll moved in, her husband began waking up with scratches all over his legs. He also had started having dreams that the doll dragged him across the floor. Debbie has also been having nightmares about the doll and says that since she came to be in their home, their smoke alarm frequently goes off. In the end, she decided, you know what, I'm just putting that doll up for sale. Good riddance.
Coming in at number 7, Elmo. In 2008, a young boy received an Elmo Knows Your Name doll as a gift from his mom. Now, I already feel like Elmo normally has a weird vibe, let alone one that is supposed to know my name. And in this case, not only did Elmo know the son's name, James, but apparently it verbally threatened him and repeatedly sang the phrase, "Kill James," over and over and over. Now, the thing about this doll is that it's supposed to have to be programmed to say and repeat phrases. But of course, no one in his family programmed that into the doll. It seemed to be doing it all on its own, and continued even after the mother changed the batteries. The mother didn't notice until she heard the boy saying the phrase himself, seemingly parroting his doll, and of course, she took it away immediately. Distraught, she called the manufacturer, and after the incident was investigated by Fisher-Price, the family received a voucher for a replacement. But still, it makes you wonder, who programmed it to say that? And why? Next up at number 6, Little Miss No Name. Created in 1965, Little Miss No Name, which was her actual name, was created by Hasbro as a sort of anti-Barbie, if you will. While Barbie was a millionaire with fabulous clothes and shoes, a picture-perfect dream house, a pink convertible, and so on, Little Miss No Name was a slightly larger, bug-eyed doll with nothing at all. and I mean that quite literally. She had no shoes, no accessories, and came dressed in nothing more than a burlap sack with a singular tear streaming down her face. Now, aside from the rather obvious creepy sadness that inherently surrounds this doll, the worst part was the message she came with on the box. Apparently they said, "I need someone to love me. I'm so tired and cold. Please take me home with you and I will be yours to hold." You could also find a saying like, "I want to learn to play. Please take me home with you and brush my tears away." Now, I think the idea was that she was a girl in need of help and love and that you, the owner, could care for her. So while I think the heart was in the right place with this creation, parents weren't really sold on the message it was sending kids. It wasn't inspirational or independent, and it may have been an unhoused girl or maybe an orphan. I'll be honest, it's a little unclear, but either way, parents were not too thrilled with the message this one was sending to their kids. Coming in at number 5, Velcro Throw and Catch. I don't know about you guys, but I remember playing with these all the time when I was a kid. Basically, it's like a little disc covered in Velcro that comes with a tennis ball, and the idea is that the ball sticks to the catcher when you throw it. A classic, simple and innocent toy. At least for most people. For two brothers in the UK, it was quite the opposite. After playing together for the afternoon, they left the Velcro discs out in the backyard. But it just so happened that a heavy rainfall came pouring down shortly after that coincidentally allowed the Velcro to start peeling off the back. Now, as moms do, their mother noticed that the boys had left their toy out in the rain, so she went to go put them back where they belonged, only to find a disturbing image hidden underneath the Velcro backing. Underneath was a creepy image showing a boy who appears to be flinging his own feces, and the image was also labeled above saying S-head, which just seems so unnecessary. I mean, it's the fact that a company made this and got away with it. Like, what was the reason for hiding this imagery on a toy? Next up at number 4, Monsters. As you can probably tell just by looking at them, due to their giant eyes and fluffy bodies, these next toys, called Monsters, came from the same company as Beanie Babies. Ty. Now, at first you might be wondering what got these little guys banned. I mean, they seem innocent enough, their bug-eyedness is very adorable, and when you squeeze their little tummies, each plushie is meant to have its own unique saying. However, some of the toys may have had more innocent sayings than others. According to a few separate accounts, one of the things that they would say was, "I hide away with lots of jewelry that I stole," which parents complained encouraged their little ones to steal and lie about it, all of which is definitely not something to be promoting to a young person. However, as bad as that is, it was nothing compared to the worst saying. One of the toys apparently said, "Turn off the TV and punch the baby," or push the baby. To be fair, there was a bit of a debate about the specifics, but all in all, it seemed to be a violent message that was being portrayed, and so it caused quite an uproar. Coming in at number 3, Cuddle and Coo. Released in 2008, the Little Mommy Cuddle and Coo doll came into some serious controversy after it began to allegedly babble a few things that were not so innocent, along with the predictable babbles like goos, ga's, and mamas that this doll was advertised to say. The doll came under heat after some people claimed that it said Islam is the light, and parents accused the company of trying to coerce religious ideology onto their kids. Now, if this is what it's actually saying, that would be wild. Is that what you guys hear too? I have to admit, I kind of hear it. However, that wasn't the only bit of controversy this doll saw prior to its ban. Other parents complained their Cuddle and Coo doll said something along the lines of "Satan is king." Now, once Satan comes into the mix, there's always the fear that we're actually dealing with some kind of demonic possession rather than a messed up hidden message, but who's to say? Really, either option would be just as terrible. Coming in at our number 2 spot, the evil stick. As far as straight up evil and deranged toys go, this is pretty much as bad as it gets. How this managed to get into stores is beyond me, but I'm just grateful that it got the hell out. Around 2014, this toy, accurately called the evil stick, was being sold at dollar stores all across America. Now, you would think that something labeled as evil might get a second check, but it's been theorized that people just thought it was some kind of translation error, as the toy seemed to be made outside of the States. So, this toy was basically a pink wand resembling a handheld mirror with a flower-shaped design at the top of the handle, and it advertised that it would play beautiful music when you pressed the button on the handle. But boy, was that extremely false. In reality, when the button was pressed, an evil cackling laugh played as a sinister image flashed across the foil mirror bit. And when you peeled back the foil, it revealed a horrifying image that truly would have scarred any pair of young eyes. I for one know that if I had seen this as a kid, I would not have been sleeping that night. The image behind the foil was a demonic looking girl hunched over with sharp teeth and bleeding red eyes, but most disturbingly, she was harming herself. To this day, no one knows exactly who was responsible for creating this hellish toy or how it got approved to be in stores, but some people out there believe it was a ploy to indoctrinate people into harming themselves by attempting to expose them and neutralize them to that kind of horrible imagery. I mean, top to bottom, this toy was just straight up evil. And last up in our number 1 spot today, the monster truck symbol. Now, there have been some evil toys on this list, but none of them hold a candle to how twisted and evil this last one is. One mother became an overnight sensation after she discovered that the small hot pink monster truck plushie she had bought her daughter at a monster truck rally was hiding the darkest message one could imagine. After some investigation, she discovered the small heart symbol on her daughter's new toy is called the Girl Lover logo, and it is apparently a secret symbol used by sickos who prey on girls. According to the FBI, it's mainly used amongst groups of people who are looking to distribute, trade, or acquire a certain kind of photography, which is absolutely horrifying. I mean, imagine thinking you're buying your kid a toy from a monster truck rally only to find out you've given her some kind of calling card for perverted adults. Now, thankfully, the toys were immediately pulled once it became clear what the symbol meant, and the company insists they had no clue the symbol meant that. But the real question was, how did that toy end up being sold there in the first place?
Number 10. The Hands Resist Him. The Hands Resist Him is a painting by Bill Stoneham. It's also known as the Haunted eBay painting, and I can't say that I disagree. The painting is based on a real-life photograph of the artist from around the time he was 5 years old. The painting depicts a young boy and doll in front of a glass door with disembodied hands in the background. A California couple found the painting in an abandoned brewery, but in February 2000, not long after they brought it to their home, they've listed it on eBay with a warning to buyers. It said, "This painting may or may not possess supernatural powers that could impact or change your life." Now, let me just say, if something you're thinking about buying comes with a warning like that, I'd suggest not buying it. The couple claimed their daughter told them that the boy and girl from the painting would fight with each other at night. The ad also mentioned that at one point, the boy seemingly exited the picture, which is why they decided to sell. I'm sorry, this just gives me the goosebumps. It sold for $1,025 to Kim Smith, a gallery owner from Michigan. In an interview, she revealed that she's received emails from people who claim they were repulsed or became physically ill by just viewing a photo of the painting. My suggestion, burn it with fire right now. Number 9. The Bazzano Vase. Legend has it that this silver vase made in the 15th century was given to a bride on the evening of her wedding near Naples, Italy. Sadly, she'd never make it to the altar as her life was ended that very night with the vase in her hands. From there, the vase was passed down her family line, but anyone who took possession of it is said to have passed away soon thereafter, so the family eventually made the decision to hide the vase. Which sounds like a great idea, but in 1988, the vase vase resurfaced, supposedly accompanied by a note that read, "Beware, this vase brings death." However, when the Pisano vase was auctioned off for about $2,250, the note had been excluded from the item description, which I feel like was important to include, but whatever. The pharmacist who bought it died within 3 months. More deaths of new owners followed, until finally the curse seemed to go dormant when a desperate family demanded the police take the vase away, and it has not been seen since. Now, wherever it is today, it should stay there and never come out. Number 8. Nightmare Doll. The doll may look like any other, but according to the seller, it's a debuk. A debuk is a term from Jewish folklore that describes a dead person's soul that is stuck in purgatory. Supposedly, it can inhabit an object or the body of a living person. In this case, it's a doll. The seller, who specializes in selling paranormal items that people don't want anymore, says the doll's owner brought it to an antique shop and was told it was a debuk, but didn't know what the word meant. I feel like if you're buying something haunted, you should do your research on it, but maybe that's just me. Soon after, whenever she would open the box it came in or touch the doll, she would suffer from terrifying nightmares of shadow people. This continued for several months until her son took the doll from her to sell it. It sold for $17.49, and I want to know who just ruined their life for $17.49.
Coming in at number 7, we have dead dolls. Less curse, more, well, actually dead people turned into dolls, which, I mean, really, do you want to go touching that? No. Anatoly Moskvin brought to life the Russian urban legend of a nasty corpse collector. It seemed that the 44-year-old took to grave robbing young dead girls, which he then turned into dolls. How? Well, he mummified the girls, dressed them up, and placed them around his room. Of course, this super creep of a middle-aged man still lived with his parents, and somehow his illicit activities went unnoticed by them. He managed to convince his mum and dad that he had a thing for big dolls. At this point, when your son's 44 and still living at home and gets a thing for big dolls, is it not time to stage an intervention? I think so. Moskvin would film the corpse dolls and zoom up close into their faces, apparently obsessed with his creations. Eventually, Russian police cottoned on to what he was doing and raided his home, where they found the robbed corpses of 26 females aged between 3 and 15. Disgusting. Their families must have been distraught to learn their dead children had been defiled in this way. When I die, please don't turn me into a doll. I don't want that. I don't need that. Coming in at number 6, we have this Elmo doll. I can't believe it has been almost 10 years since an Elmo doll made headlines for threatening to kill a toddler. I remember reading about it at the time. I can't believe time's flown so much. So Elmo, as many of you may know, is a Muppet puppet from Sesame Street. A while back, a bunch of Elmo dolls that could talk and say your name were released. Now 2-year-old James Bowman was the proud owner of a doll, and he enjoyed Elmo saying his name so much that he quickly ran the batteries down. When the batteries were replaced by his mum, for some reason the doll stopped just saying his name. Instead, out of nowhere, it started saying, "Kill James." Okay. The 2-year-old then even started repeating the doll, saying "Kill James," which you can imagine totally and utterly freaked his mum out. She did what all good mothers would do and tossed the evil cursed doll right on out of there, although not before footage of the creepy toy in action was recorded and distributed to the press. Have a listen.
Kill James? Kill James?
Yeah, I don't feel good about that. His mum said that she was kind of distraught and, I mean, I'll say. Coming in at number 5, we have Robert. What a classic. While I usually love a good nautical theme, I am absolutely not here for this sailor doll. Robert is a 20th century doll that used to belong to a child called Eugene Otto. Eugene used to blame many naughty things he did on Robert, and the pair would often be overheard talking, with Eugene's parents assuming Robert's voice was really Eugene. When Eugene died in 1974, Robert was left in an attic and discovered by the next owners of the home, who had a 10-year 10-year-old daughter. The small girl was terrified of Robert and claimed he wanted to kill her. Neighbors of the house would swear they saw Robert at the window on occasion, and a plumber who worked at the house found the doll to move across the room on its own. A reporter from the area, Malcolm Ross, visited the house to see Robert and was disturbed to sense that Robert was listening to his conversation, and he even thought he was understanding him. Legend has it that this doll has caused car accidents, broken bones, made people lose their jobs, get divorced, and more. Robert is now in a museum in Florida's Key West, and museum visitors supposedly experience post-visit misfortunes for failing to respect Robert. So do you know what? Maybe don't even look at Robert, let alone touch him. He does not like disrespect. Another doll you should never look at is Peggy. Peggy will make you sick, and she is coming into number 4. So Peggy is a haunted doll residing in the UK in Shrewsbury, Shropshire to be precise. Peggy is owned by paranormal investigator Jane Harris, who runs an organisation called Haunted Dolls. That's what it says on the tin. Really. She was given Peggy by a terrified woman who couldn't cope with the burden of the doll. Peggy is thought to have the power to visit people in their dreams, warning them or haunting them. Mediums who have worked with Peggy believe that she is linked to the Holocaust, and Jane believes that she died of respiratory issues, possibly a gassing. In 2015, Peggy caused a media stir when an article was published about her on the Mail Online, after which 80 readers reported having an awful experience after viewing her picture. Most were nausea, but some people even had panic attacks. Peggy is said to be haunted by an evil spirit. Now Jane, her owner, did ask the doll to stop tormenting people, but apparently one woman even had a heart attack shortly after meeting her. Yikes. Coming in at number 3, we have Victorian mourning dolls. We're lucky we're living in the age we do, as 150 years or so ago things were not so great. During the Victorian era, child mortality rates were high. As a result, the Victorians dealt with death in a pretty different way than we do now. In the late 19th century, it became habitual to have a mourning doll made and laid at the grave of a dead child. The dolls were usually made of wax, and their hair was generally made from the hair of the deceased, which is pretty creepy. The doll would also be dressed in the deceased's clothes and mourned as if they were a real child. These dolls were then often kept in a container by bereaved families. Now, I'm not saying that they're necessarily cursed, but they were the physical representation of a dead child made with the child's real hair. I, for one, would not go touching them. Alright, less spooky in kind of a ghostly way, but very spooky in a real life, do you wanna kill me way, we have Snack Time Cabbage Patch Kid at number 2. Now these were the true menaces of the 1990s. Sure, they might not be haunted or possessed by a demon, but these dolls were the real demon here. Why? Well, because they tried to eat the kids they belonged to. So the story goes that these dolls were released in 1996, and they were designed to make the doll look like they could eat. Plastic fries and various other fake foods were included, and kids could feed them and the doll would chew them. Sounds great, but unfortunately the doll couldn't tell the difference between a plastic fry and a kid's finger, and you know how much children love sticking their fingers in stuff. There were several complaints from parents of children with injured fingers. Kids would obviously stick their fingers in the doll's mouth. The doll would bite down, clamping so hard the kids couldn't always get their fingers out. There were a number of reports in the mid-90s of kids getting their fingers and other body parts stuck in the mouth of the devil dolls, and one girl even got an unwelcome haircut when the doll mulched up a significant proportion of her hair. Over 100 complaints were received, so the doll was recalled and $40 refunds were offered. To be honest, I'd rather have my finger than $40. Finally, coming into number 1, we have one of the most famous dolls of all time. Never touch her. It's Annabelle. On first viewing, I kind of thought that Annabelle, a Raggedy Ann doll, was pretty cute looking, but then when you realise that this is the doll behind the Annabelle movie franchise, all cute goes out of the window and is replaced with cold hard fear. For all her supposedly evil biddings, Annabelle is currently in a glass jail in the form of a sealed box at the Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut. The museum is run by Ed and Lorraine Warren, and they received the doll after it lived with a student nurse and her roommate in the 1970s. The doll behaved strangely, so the pair contacted contacted a medium who suggested that she was haunted by a dead girl named Annabelle Higgins. The pair felt a great deal of empathy and tried to nurture and care for the girl, but it turned out she was a malicious and evil spirit, leading to the pair giving the doll away. It's a bit less stressful than the movie makes it sound, but nonetheless I really wouldn't fancy being the bearer of this plushy menace. There is a reason she's locked behind glass, because you should never touch this smiling devil. You just don't know what she could do to you. I don't like it.
Okay, we're gonna be kicking off this list with a classic. For number 10, we have Annabelle. You all know her, you all love her. She's got a more successful movie career than Rob Lowe. So many of you at home are like, who the hell is Rob Lowe? And to that I say, exactly. I feel like most people watching this list know Annabelle. If you don't, I'll give you the spark notes on this hell sponge. She was a doll owned by a girl, the girl died, and either a demon or the girl's spirit is now attached to the doll, and anyone who owns it has their life ruined. It's said that the doll can drive you insane, kill you, and invade your dreams. She's been the inspiration for the Conjuring movies as well as the Annabelle spin-off movies. She is currently being held in a glass case blessed with holy water in a museum of the occult, which is owned by famed paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. They're keeping an eye on the little monster to make sure she doesn't take over the world. I know we put Annabelle on a lot of spooky lists, but she's super famous right now, and it felt wrong not putting her on a list of cursed toys. Like, Annabelle has to be on it. At number 9, we have Leda. 200-year-old doll from Eastern Europe. I'm not surprised that this has a curse on it. Everything about that sentence says to me, stay away or your hair is going to fall out and your skin's going to blister. Well, Leda isn't that bad of a curse. She's not going to make your body fall apart. She's more into the game of psychological torture. An Australian man by the name of Walton found Leda in an abandoned house. Since when are we finding strange dolls in rundown houses and then taking them home? You're basically asking a demon to follow you home and fart in your cereal. After Walton brought Leda home, some strange things started happening. People said they could see the doll move and he would find scuff marks on his floor as if someone had been walking around with tiny shoes. And his kids started having nightmares about Leda. In these dreams they would see a life-size Leda walk into the room. Walton tried to get rid of her once and he said when he went to sell it, he physically couldn't move the doll. Now he's a traveling roadshow. He'll stop in different towns to show off the doll. I guess it's like if you can't beat him, join him. Just be part of the doll, work together. At number 8 we have the blindfolded doll of Singapore. Some people found a creepy doll propped up against a tree with a blindfold on that had strange Arabic writing on it. This is every sign of something being cursed. I think even if you just did this to a regular doll, it would develop a curse out of thin air because all the pieces are there. No one knows where this doll came from or who dressed it up in such a creepy way. The Arabic writing on the blindfold says, "In the name of Allah," which some people think is a protection spell. So if you remove the blindfold, all hell will break loose and everything will be on fire for 1,000 years. That's just my guess. Oh, and just so you know, the doll is missing. She disappeared in 2015 and no one knows where she is. She's probably eating a human heart with that headless lady from the movie Hereditary.
Number 7. The Bronze Lady. Many people go into Sleepy Hollow in search of its best known spirit, the Headless Horseman. However, they may not be aware of a second local legend which has haunted the Sleepy Hollow cemetery for over 100 years, the Bronze Lady. She's a bronze statue located in New York's Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. The Bronze Lady was commissioned by the widow of Civil War General Samuel M. Thomas after he died in 1903. The story goes Samuel's widow was unhappy with the statue because its expression seemed gloomy, so sculptor Andrew O'Connor Jr. redid it for her. But instead of just handing over the new head, he called it a monstrosity and shattered it in front of her. Now, much to her dismay, she installed the original figure to watch over her late husband's tomb anyway. And in the following years, nighttime visitors to the cemetery claimed to have heard quiet sobs coming from the Bronze Lady. It was said if you knocked on the door of the general's tomb and looked through the keyhole, you would have a bad dream that night. There was another one where if you slapped her in the face, sat in her lap, and spit in her eye, she would haunt you for the rest of your life. Yeah, I just stay away from there. Number 6. James Dean's car. On September 23rd, 1955, James Dean ran into Sir Alec Guinness at a restaurant and showed off his Porsche 550 Spider. In his autobiography, Sir Alec described the car as sinister, and he told Dean, "Please never get in it. If you get in that car, you will be found dead in it by this time next week." 7 days later, Dean was found dead after crashing the car. Now, the trouble didn't stop there. Surgeon/recreational recreational racer Dr. William F. Esrich rescued some of the Porsche's parts from a junkyard and passed a few to his friend Dr. Troy McHenry. They installed parts in their own cars and then both crashed during a race in October 1956. William survived, but Troy didn't, and whispers of a curse began to spread. The rest of the car went to George Barris, the car customizer. Over the next several years, the Spider supposedly caused a handful of incidents. A garage caught fire while the car was inside, 2 tires blew out while affixed to a different vehicle, and a couple of thieves were injured when trying to steal some of the Spider's remaining parts. George claimed that the car had mysteriously vanished in 1960, and the car has been MIA since. Seems cursed to me though, I wouldn't want to go anywhere near it. Number 5. Baker's wedding dress. In 1854, while visiting her father's company, Anna Baker met and fell in love with one of the steelworkers. Anna kept the romance a secret from her family as she knew her father would prohibit her relationship with one of his employees. This went on for 2 years, and it wasn't long after Anna's boyfriend proposed and she happily accepted. Anna picked out a beautiful wedding dress and the two made plans to marry, but her father found out about the secret relationship and immediately fired Anna's love, threatening him with death if he ever returned. Anna's heart broke and she fell into a deep depression. The only thing she had was the wedding dress. Her house was then turned into a museum with the dress displayed. Now most of the paranormal activity in the home appears to be centered around the dress. Visitors have witnessed the glass case move while they were in the room, appearing as if someone was trying to get the dress. Others have claimed to see the dress move or have caught glimpses of what appeared to be the dress out of its case floating around. Number 4. Destructive statue. The destructive statue was auctioned in October 2013. It was made by a man named William who enjoyed making sculptures out of unhardened clay. I'm sorry, but this statue just makes me feel uneasy, and according to the item's description, William made this particular statue on the same day he was crushed to death during a tragic work incident at the brickyard. Which is ironic because the statue has the word future carved into it, but William never really had a future after making it. Too dark. Moving on. A coworker saw that the statue was still at the job site when he arrived the next day, so he took it home with him like any reasonable person would do. While nothing strange happened for a few months, things took a turn when he took it out of storage to display in his den. A few days later, the den felt heavy and uninviting. He began hearing doors slam on their own, only to find them wide open. Decorations that were next to the statue shattered on their own, and at one point he found the statue facing the other side of the wall, even though he had never moved it. To make matters worse, he then saw a dark shadow or mist as he was walking past the den one night. Completely spooked, he begged his friend to sell it for him, who then put it on eBay. It's so funny that he was so scared to deal with it, he's pawning it off to some other poor soul who will unknowingly experience the exact same thing. Number 3. The Conjure Chest. The Conjure, or the Conjured Chest, is a chest of drawers who has taken the lives of about 16 people. As the story goes, an enslaved man named Remus custom made the item for his enslaver. Jeremiah, displeased with Remus's work, beat him to death. In retaliation, Remus's friends then cursed the chest by scattering dried owl blood in its drawers, and let me just say, those are great friends. But the Grahams used the chest and passed it down their family for 140 years, and death or injury came to anyone who stored their apparel inside. In the mid-20th century, Virginia Carey Hudson Cleveland had 2 of her offspring die, and her husband died after being rushed to the hospital for appendicitis. A neighbor also died after an incident involving a weapon, and all have used the chest. So Virginia enlisted the help of her maid, Sally, to undo the curse. They followed the steps that included curing a dead owl and boiling willow leaves. Sally said that if she or Virginia then died, it would prove that the curse had been broken, and months later, Sally did die. When Virginia's daughter inherited the chest, she opted not to use it, which is why she's the smartest person in that family. Number 2. Robert the Doll. Before there was Annabelle, there was Robert, which is even more terrifying. The 40-inch tall nightmare was created by the German toy company Stief. In Key West, Florida in 1904, the doll was given to 4-year-old Robert Eugene Otto, who went by Gene. Some reports say it was a present from Gene's grandfather, while others suggested the disgruntled maid of the Ottos cursed the doll before giving it to their young son. It's also possible that the maid cursed the doll sometime after Gene's grandfather gave it to him. Either way, this doll was bad news. news. Robert the doll, dressed in a sailor suit of Jean, quickly became his owner's evil alter ego. As legend would have it, whenever Jean's parents would find his bedroom furniture upended or his toys mangled, Jean would say, "Robert did it." Jean grew up, became an artist, got married, and then returned to his childhood house. Jean's wife, Anne, wasn't a huge fan of Robert the doll, shocking, so Jean set up a new area for him in the attic. Passerbys claimed that Robert would switch positions without any help and would watch them from the window while they walked by. People who actually set foot in the house reported hearing footsteps and laughter in the attic. This activity continued after Jean's death in 1970, when the estate, Robert included, passed into the hands of one Myrtle Reuter. And coming in at number 1 is the Devil's Chair. This story goes like this. Lorraine and Ed Warren helped exorcise a possessed boy named David Glatzel in the early 80s. During his exorcisms, this chair would allegedly rock on its own, levitate, and even vanish and reappear. David and Lorraine also claimed to have seen the devil sitting in it. Witnesses say the final exorcism concluded when the demon fled David's body and entered Arnie Cheyenne Johnson, a man who ended the life of his landlord months later during an argument and claimed it was due to demonic possession. Now, if this sounds familiar, it is. This story is the inspiration for the third Conjuring film. Now, Ghost Adventure star Zach Baggan purchased the chair to be on display in his museum, but he had been forced to shut down his haunted rocking chair exhibit. While Zach and a friend noticed the door to the chair's room slowly creak open all by itself, Zach also said a light focused on the chair went out when a power cord was mysteriously yanked out of the wall. 2 hours later, he says a woman collapsed, began bawling, and asked, "Why is this happening to me?" Shortly thereafter, she fell unconscious, according to Zach, who adds the woman was upstairs, directly above the rocking chair exhibit. Later, Zach said 5 of his tour guides throughout the museum started crying uncontrollably. After just a few tours on opening night, the stress was too much for Zach, and it forced him to shut it down altogether for the night. For now, Zach says the haunting rocking chair exhibit is closed until further notice. But in the middle of 2022, YouTubers Sam and Colby, who are paranormal investigators, that I love by the way, were given special permission to not only see or touch the chair, but to sit in it. The results were insane, and they are braver than me. Well, that's all for our list of the top 10 cursed objects museum refused to showcase.
Starting us off at number 10 is the German doll. Now this one comes from Paranormal Alien 85 on Reddit, who said she bought a doll for her daughter, not knowing it was made in Germany in the mid-40s. And you know what else was taking place in Germany in the mid-40s? World War II, buddy. When the doll finally arrived, she looked harmless enough, but that same night the mum had an extremely detailed dream. She and her partner saw their daughter and sister stuck inside a Nazi concentration camp, and despite seeing them, they couldn't do anything to save them. The daughter also happened to be holding the doll in her hand. Her boyfriend somehow tripped on something while running away from the camp, and his eye popped out of his socket, and like the user remembered it dangling from the socket in vivid detail. That's something I don't need to see or even imagine in any kind of detail. However, when they woke up the next morning, the user's partner woke up with a bloody eye. How? No one knows, but I'm guessing it's the doll. Coming in at number 9 is Peggy. Paranormal investigator Jane Harris was sent Peggy the doll after her previous owners had had enough of her. Peggy had been causing them to have violent nightmares, which didn't stop even after a priest came to bless their house. You know it's bad when not even the Holy Spirits can help you. That's when you know it's over. It's game over. Stop trying. Now, according to Jane, 80% of people that even look at Peggy experience reactions ranging from an intense migraine to full-blown mania. Psychic mediums who have investigated Peggy say there's a spirit inside of her that's restless and was persecuted all her life. It's so bad that people don't even want to look at pictures of her in case they experience paranoia, mania, or all of the above. At number 8, we have The Two. Alabama-based paranormal enthusiast Ashley Nicole Fine has a collection of 100 haunted dolls, and 2 of which hate her boyfriend Philip. Ashley says the 2 dolls that hate Philip are possessed by 2 women that were murdered by their own boyfriends, so even the sight of Philip just pisses them off. And that I can understand. Honestly, if their boyfriends kill them, they're not gonna like anyone else's. Now, one of the dolls is possessed by a woman called Mirabella, and the other one by one called Setha. Ashley shared that Mirabella told her she had been strangled by a jealous lover and then dumped into a lake. The dolls have attacked Philip during the night since he woke up with scratches all over his body, and the dolls were not where Ashley had last kept them. And just to add add to it, they weren't deep bloody scratches by any means, but they were so worrying enough to cause concern, like where the hell did they come from? But as she's been collecting these dolls since she was 12 years old and said she would always choose the dolls over any boyfriend that she ever had, and that, my friend, is commitment.
At number 7 we have Mandy the Crying Baby. This creepy baby doll from the 20th century has a spirit attached to it that hates other dolls and cries at night. You should keep this thing in your home as a tester baby to see if you're ready to have kids. Mandy was donated to the Quesnel Museum. The museum was happy to have her as they have an extensive doll collection and she would fit right in. The new owners at the museum didn't listen to the warnings though. The lady donating the doll said she wanted to give it away because it kept her up all night from its endless crying. Soon after Mandy had her spot in the museum, people started noticing strange things happening. First off, the crying was real. Then she would also knock over all the other dolls who were in the same display case as her. So much so that they had to give Mandy her very own case. She has a nice little 1-bedroom now. She doesn't need anything more than that, like who's gonna visit a satanic doll? However, she is a big tourist attraction. Ghost investigators from all over the world come through to check if the tales are real. At number 6 we have Joliet. A gift passed down from mother to daughter, always having the same outcome. Joliet is a doll that has been in the same family for generations. It has been passed down from mother to daughter 4 times. Each ending the same way. Whoever receives the doll will give birth to a girl and a boy. The boy will die after being just 3 days old. His soul will be then trapped in the doll, and then the mother will give the doll to her new daughter. There's now 4 souls trapped inside this doll, and it said you can hear them all crying out at night. For some reason the family will not give up this toy. I mean, that's nice of them. Keep the curse within the family. Don't give it to an unsuspecting person. At number 5 we have Ruby. If you walk into a place called the Traveling Museum of the Occult, then you're going to be looking for creepy objects. And this cursed toy named Ruby is one of the centerpieces of this moving attraction. Ruby was originally just a normal doll, only looked creepy. But after the doll's owner, a little girl, died holding her, things started to get very strange. People couldn't pick up Ruby without feeling a wave of depression. It's even said if you hold her for too long, it will make you physically ill. At number 4 we have Elmo Knows Your Name. If you're unfamiliar with the Elmo Knows Your Name doll, it was an Elmo toy that you could teach small words to, like your name or sentences like I love you. There were similar toys to this like Furbies in the early 2000s. For whatever reason, a fad caught on with learning toys. People thought it would be cute, but everyone just taught them to swear in slang terms for genitals. Now in 2008, there was an Elmo Knows Your Name doll that got picked up by a couple of new parents who wanted to give it to their son James. James loved this thing. I think mostly because he was too young to understand what the doll was saying to him. But the parents didn't know either until they changed the batteries and found out the Elmo doll was spitting out some lovely sentences, particularly kill James. At least you know there are worse things out there that you can give your kids than tablets. Now I don't know if the next part is true, but apparently the Elmo doll had been saying kill James to the little baby for so long that he started reiterating the sentence. A very disappointing set of first words. At number 3 we have Old Man Puppet. This might be the worst purchase this man has ever made. Jane Harris bought this puppet of an old man. I guess he was a collector of weird things. A puppet of an old dude isn't high on my purchase list. I only have 1 set of sheets, so I feel like I have priorities before creepy dolls. Well, Jane must have several sets of sheets, maybe even 2 pillows, because he decided to dish out some cash for this strange puppet, and it wasn't long before he hated it. Not because of the terrible purchase choice, but because it tried to strangle him in his sleep. Maybe the worst way to die. At your funeral, everyone's like, dude, he died from a puppet. I always knew he was soft, but I never thought he was puppet homicide soft. Well, this freaked him out, but like most ghost believers, he wanted to get it on camera. So he locked this thing away in a puppet-proof glass case and then set up a camera. He filmed this thing for 3 months, and let's check out some of the footage. It's not getting up and banging on the glass, but maybe he's just camera shy. And it was still pretty creepy. It was moving on its own. At number 2 we have Robert. When it comes to famous haunted dolls, I would say Robert is right under Annabelle. This guy's just waiting for his movie deal to really kick off his career. Robert the doll was a gift for a boy named Robert from his Haitian nanny in the 1900s. It seemed like a very kind gesture, but apparently it was a revenge plot. The nanny had put a curse on the doll and then gave it to the boy. She did this because of the way she was treated by the family. The doll then began to torment the boy, whispering to him, laughing while he slept, and giving him the the worst luck he could imagine. The doll tormented him until he was an adult, and then it was eventually donated to the Martello Museum in Florida. Now the doll sits there and is still cursed. If you ever go back to check out this doll, be careful. If you make fun of Robert or take a picture of him without asking, he will curse you with bad luck until you apologize. Imagine apologizing to a doll because spooky stuff started happening to you. That would suck. You could avoid all this by simply not going. Maybe it's a bad idea just to hang around cursed dolls. I don't know, you can avoid these simple problems. Alright, for the number 1 spot, we have a doll that can send you to the grave with just a glance. Peggy is locked away in a haunted museum down in the city of Sin, Las Vegas. The perfect place for a cursed doll. Now, legend has it, if you even look at Peggy, you're done for. She can apparently pass a curse over to you just from eye contact. It's even said that pictures of Peggy are strong enough with the force to give you some sort of displeasure. The curses range from upset stomach and dizziness and bad luck and stretch all the way to heart attacks. Are you serious? That's right, one lady said she had a heart attack just from looking at this doll. I want to know what this lady's food diary looks like before I call this thing haunted, but this is still very creepy. Misfortune has fallen on so many people who have looked at Peggy that you need to sign a waiver just to take a peek at her. The museum's like, yeah, if you get cursed, that's your problem. Don't complain to us, go to a priest or something, you sign the contract. Alright everyone, that is our list, and as promised, I'm going to be doing some more pet shoutouts. You guys really seem to love it, so I'm going to keep doing it. Remember, you can hit me up on Instagram with a picture of your pet, and I will give them a shoutout. I have tons to do right now, so it might take me a little while to get to. First on the list, we have Montana and her cats Dino and Moonshine, her mouse Maxwell, her dog Fiona. There's a whole family of pets living in this girl's house. I am jealous. Mandy wanted a shout out for her dog Holly, who just had her 7th birthday. Look at that good girl with her birthday hat. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry. Another member of the Most Amazing Top 10 family wanted a shout out for her pug Pixie and her French bulldog Trixie. And Yvonne sent me this floofer, but didn't include his name, so I'm just gonna name him Dr. Jumanji. And finally, Ashley sent me a picture of her cat and also didn't include the name, but I'm gonna leave it to the comment section of what you think we should name this cat. This cat kind of looks spoiled and arrogant, so let me know what you think name fits with it.